Welcome to the Scoop World Order Sunday edition. I've got my two hombres, my two homies on a Sunday night. We have Bill the Bank Greene and we have Nevadabuck. We have a special treat now that camp season is over. We're going to do a little exercise tonight where we're going to discuss who are our favorite guys from camp. So each of us have selected two guys from offense, two guys from defense, and based on where we live, Bank and I's are going to be from Ohio State camp. Nevadabuck is going to be from Elite 11 in the opening. So we actually have a pretty nice list here. So I'm going to start off with you, Bank. Bank, offensively, during our days at camp, and we covered every day. I mean, we're out there hustling all day. Who were your two favorite guys you saw on offense at camp?
Yeah, and I think we should probably say that I think there were 7 camp days, Kirk. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
I think there were 7. And I think you and I were together probably every one of them. We spent a lot of time together, and that was a nice thing for me because, I've covered them before with Scout and with 24/7, and I either covered them by myself, or if you're with a group of people, usually you have duties split up. So you're usually not side by side with one of your coworkers. That's why I enjoyed this, because we had Mark and Mick and Tom Orr, so you and I really could kind of bounce things off one another, and that's what I really enjoyed. They just never really get that before. So offensively, we probably both liked a lot of the same guys. The guy that stood out to me the most offensively was a position that you can never stick out at a camp. And that was the running back, Richard Young, the 2023 kid. And I've covered so many camps over the years that running backs, it's not their thing, man. Running backs, they impress people during football games when they make people miss, when they run over people, when they show their vision. Well, you don't do any of that stuff in a camp. But Richard Young was unbelievable. Just the turn of foot, the change of direction, the flat out, just explosive speed. And then watching him catch the ball, you could see, seeing it in Tony Alford's eyes, what he was seeing with Richard Young is kind of what got to me too. Somebody else who does this for a living at the highest level is seeing what you're seeing. Because I saw how Tony Alford was acting with Richard Young. I mean, and it was pretty special. So Richard Young was the top offensive player that I saw in the 7 camp days. And I mean, that was about as special as a running back performance as you could have at a camp. I saw Zeke Elliott in Chicago at a Nike camp. It's just, there's not much he can do. Well, Richard Young made it happen, and I was blown away by him. So he was my top offensive performer.
Who was your second guy?
I'm going to go with a wide receiver, Carnell Tate. He's at IMG, but he's just there as a mercenary. That's just, he's not an IMG. He's not a Florida kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. He is from Chicago. He and the dad are Ohio State fans. They love what's going on at Ohio State. I've got the kid in my 2023 class. Now, Notre Dame's in it, and, they're one to watch here, but I think Heartline's going to get this one. And this kid kind of had some Jackson Smith and Jigba to him. We watched him together. You and I did, watched him. He was there twice, I believe. And pretty darn special, and it's hard, when you look at the wide receivers that Heartline brings in, year after year. I mean, it's hard to really look special because we've got guys in our mind of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Julian Fleming and the Harrison kid and Igbuka and all. We know all those guys. Well, this guy fits. Okay. This guy is right there with them as far as I'm concerned. I really liked Carnell Tate a lot. Great route runner, great speed, hands catcher, everything out in front. I mean, there's just nothing not to like about that kid.
All right, I want to throw it out to the West Coast, Nevada. You got to cover a whole different set of kids for the most part. Who did you like the most that you got to see at the Elite 11 and the opening?
Well, it was kind of a different kind of setting out here. The opening being a 7-on-7 setting, and the Elite 11 being kind of an NFL quarterback combine type of setup. And I saw a lot of Quinn Ewers, and obviously Quinn, when you watch Quinn play quarterback, you just know you're watching something really, really special. This is, a kid that's just, he's been schooled, from an early age to be, kind of a prototypical type of quarterback, can make every throw. But the interesting thing about Quinn, and the thing that kind of separates him from the rest of the guys, it's not that he has the biggest arm and he's got a huge arm, or it's not that he's the most athletic, because frankly, he doesn't look like the most athletic out there. But the way he throws, the arm angle, and the different throws that he can make, and the different off-platform stuff that he can go with, it's really what sets him apart. And it's really what's made Mahomes such a special quarterback in the NFL. And you see the same type of attributes with him. And you see, when you watch him play, you're just, immediately you're watching something very special. And Ohio State, really got a good one there, and a great kid. And watching him throw for 5 days in a row out there was a real treat. And he was a guy that he was my top performer, and somebody you couldn't take your eyes off him when he was on the field. And it was really fun to cover him.
And then you had a breakout start wide receiver. Tell us a little bit about our boy Graves.
Yeah, Keon Graves was, you had all the wide receivers out there catching balls from, during the quarterback competition, and then you had him go out there for the opening. And he was just, Keon's just a guy that really, really, stood out for his smooth route running. He came in and out of his routes really, really, really fast, and was able to get separation as a result, caught everything. That didn't matter. The ball was, low, high, behind him, wherever it was. I don't think I saw him drop the ball the whole time. And he would run around for everybody and would get open and score touchdowns. But him and Quinn have that special type of bond. And when they got together in the 7-on-7, they were virtually unstoppable. And so he's a guy that all the scouts were out there watching him were like they knew that he had been underrated when he was a 3-star. Now he's a 4-star. He's probably even a little bit underrated as a 4-star. I mean, he is as good as anybody. He was as good as anybody there at the opening. And, I expect, he's going to come in and he's going to have a Chris Olave type of impact on the Ohio State offense once he gets acclimated. And I think we're going to see, Ewers to Graves lots of times in the future for sure.
That's excellent. My 2 picks, I'm going to go with the local kid from Finley, Luke Montgomery. I thought he was really, really athletic in person. He's very cut, very muscular, very fluid. And he's a little light, but I mean, he's going to grow and be 310 pounds, and he'll be a 310 pound guy that runs a 4.8 at the combine. Like, that's what I saw. And I saw a guy that, Kevin Wilson and Stud were coaching like crazy. And I saw a kid that got better as the day progressed. I mean, Bank and I watched him, and you can just kind of see that trajectory going up kind of as he got warmed up, and made some really nice adjustments in the one-on-one pass rush show. That's kind of like the main event when you go to these camp things, is there's always a bunch of individual work and running around cones and that kind of stuff. But then it's like when they get to compete against a defensive lineman or a receiver gets to go against a corner, that's when we get real excited, because we get to see like a real competition, and see how kids, and it's not just if they win or lose, it's how they react to winning and losing. Like, how do they tank mentally? Can they recover if they get beat? Have they ever seen a level of competition like this before? Because some guys that are from smaller schools, they've never seen some of these guys before. Like, they see, a kid like Shamar Stewart show up and they might fall over and die. So like, what is that? What alien, UFO did that guy come off of? I mean, you never see anything like some of these kids when you go to camp. And I lived that when I came from, the Federal League in Perry, which is great, but, you show up and then Mario Williams is at camp, and there ain't no one in our area that looks like Mario Williams. I'm just saying, like, you're going against some big dogs. And, but I thought he did really well. I mean, great redirection, great feet, future left tackle. I can't imagine any other spot you'd want to play him at with that kind of ability. And my second guy, I love covering these camps with the Bank, because I get to meet his like old homies, and I'll tell you what, man, I was a big fan of the South Florida Express after Bank introduced me to his guys. He said, "Hey, Kirk, this is Ricky Williams." I was like, "That ain't Ricky Williams. I played with Ricky Williams in Miami." I was like, "Damn, Ricky." I was like, "Damn, you fucking let yourself go, bro." I was like, "You
Geno Smith,
and Geno Smith, who looks somehow he looks younger than his son, who's been in the NFL for like 8 years. And like but those guys were the best. And Bank interviewed him and had a great interview. But I'm gonna go with Brandon Inniss. And you can almost flip a coin because I think that you give a little bit of an edge to the kids from the like this. When you see kids that have the South Florida Express on, you're like, well, that kid has to be a beast. That guy has to be a 5-star. He's gonna go to Bama and play receiver, or he's gonna go to Clemson or the U or whatever. And like when if you put Carnell Tate in a South Florida Express shirt, it's almost like you think, oh, okay, he'd fit in there, where some kids who might not be as good that are in South Florida Express here, you might think that they're a little better than they actually are because, they're next to a kid like Brandon Inniss. Now, Brandon Inniss is all that. I mean, he catches everything. He's ultra competitive. But that day, they're almost the same. Carnell Tate looked quicker. I thought Brandon Inniss is like, he would just be a monster in the slot. He runs great routes, great hands, tough as nails. And he looks like he's a junior in college. Like, I mean, he's defined, ripped up, the kid is put together, and it is, he was special. I mean, he's the number 1 receiver in the country. So it's not like I'm lifting a rock up and finding Brandon Inniss, but he was really special. What would you agree with that take, Bank?
Yeah, a lot. And Brandon is not a 4.25, 4.3 kid. You think of those Florida receivers and you think of them as, all measurables and a little light on production. Well, he's the opposite. I mean, I don't know that he's much more than a 4.5 guy. He's not 6'5". He's not Julio Jones. He's not, but he is so darn good. It's every route is the same. You get that thing, the catch radius is sick. You can throw it at his feet. You can throw it above his head. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's just so consistent. He's the same guy day after day. The South Florida Express kids landed. What time did they land? Like
at noon?
At noon, 1 o'clock. Yeah. They picked up their luggage. They drove to the Woody. They changed their shoes in front of us, threw shorts on, and boom, those guys were like,
they went out just murdered. They went out and murdered everybody at camp.
Right. I was like, and that, I love Brandon and Luke Montgomery. The thing that we had talked about was he has never played a lot of offensive tackle. He's a D end and a tight end in high school, and you go to a camp like that. That's a hard place to learn a new position. We liked him, you had commented how many, like he would get beat and then he would go back to stud and they would say, you got beat. You can't get beat to the outside, drop step here, hands here. And he would go back and do it exactly the way they told him the next time. And that was so impressive because, it's hard to take coaching in 4 minutes and do exactly what they told you to do. I mean, it takes reps and reps and reps. Well, he was able to incorporate that instantly. And we both thought that was really impressive for a kid that has not played a down of football as a high school junior yet. He's still a baby. I mean, he just come off his sophomore year.
Yeah, he's going to be a special cat. So let's throw it back out to Nevada. You can start us up on defense. Nevada, the nice thing about the Elite 11 is that it tethered to the opening this year. So you actually got to see more than just quarterbacks. So talk a little bit about a couple guys you saw on defense, especially a couple speed burners that you got on the back end of the secondary.
Yeah, CJ Hicks was out here, and it's a tough setting for CJ as a linebacker because, like I said, you're the 7-on-7 setting is, you're going up against some of the best wide receivers and quarterbacks in the country. But CJ looks like CJ, and he's in tremendous shape. He's going to be one of those prototypical linebackers that can run that Ohio State's looking for right now. They're looking for guys that can fly around out there, and he's a guy that can play all over the field. Obviously this wasn't the best setting for him, but he looked terrific. But you've got the guy that was the super freak, and Bank was just talking about the guy that's not running the 4.2 or not running the 4. Well, this guy is going to run the 4.25 or something, and that's Domani Jackson. Domani's he's a USC commit, but he's talking about making an Ohio State visit. And if he does, this would be one to keep an eye on, because when Ohio State's hit record on visits is really, really good. And Domani is a kid that can absolutely fly. He won the California or the CIF track championship for 100-meter dash in a 10.25, which you just run around your head. I mean, that is world-class speed. He's not just a football player. He's a track star, and that speed absolutely translates to the football field when he's out there playing. And watching him lock up on these guys, how do you run away from a guy who runs a 10.2 500? You just don't. And so Domani Jackson was the most impressive of the 2022 guys that I saw at cornerback. The most impressive 2023 was AJ Harris. AJ is a guy that Ohio State's in on. He's really, really high on Ohio State. Him and CJ Hicks are really, really tight. And boy, he's an impressive physical specimen. I mean, he looks great out there. Physically, his lower body's so well developed, and he doesn't look like he's got a couple more years in high school, but he does. And he's a guy that Ohio State's excited about, and frankly, I think Ohio State's going to get. So he was fun to watch over the 3 or 4 days that I had him out here, and he's a guy I expect to see in an Ohio State uniform in the future.
All right, Bank, I'm going to go next here because I'm going to give you my names because I know that you'll want to sprinkle in your opinion on the guys I'm going to see because we watched a lot of the same guys. But I mean, the guy that was the belle of the whole ball during camp season for, I think, both of us was Shamar Stewart. Monsignor Pace, shout out Mario for getting him up here. That kid, man, he worked out in an individual workout, and that kid is just he's got like that kind of that clowny, that rare air speed, agility, like kind of effortless, you could almost say. When people are like working hard, everything he did was smooth, and he was a monster physically. I mean, he's 270 pounds, I think, and he was running around it's on the agility drills. I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe how fluid that kid was. And he looks like he could be a college freshman today, and he still has another year of high school, which is really scary. And I thought he was outstanding. A kid that got a private workout who things are trending nicely with her is Big Dave's kid, Mateo Uiagalelei. He really looks smooth. I mean, that guy is a freaky athlete at tight end, but they worked him out as a defensive end. Larry Johnson worked him out behind the little curtain that they had at the WAC, and God, I couldn't take my eyes off him. I was like, that is a big, fluid dude. And then you watch him play tight end, and you're like, holy cow, is that guy an athlete? But he's got major upside. And then since I was brief with those two, I got to throw in my guy Hero Canoe. Hero was a hero, basically. I mean, with the our little crew that came over from Europe. I mean, they had him, Lucas Simmons, and they had the tight end Theo Ornstrom. I thought they were all really special guys, all guys that I would take at Ohio State in a millisecond. And they all had the offers to show up by the end of their camp tour. But Hero Canoe was explosive, powerful, really did good in the one pass rush drills. Looks like almost like a perfect nose guard that is strong as an ox and could bull rush guys back. But he's really explosive, and he's young. So I mean, he's got a lot of upside. So those were, I said 2, I took 3 because me and you kind of shared Shamar Stewart. Any thoughts on that, Bank? And then give me your 2.
Yeah, with Shamar, you watch his tape, and it's exceptional. I mean, his game film is just off the charts, and he plays at a big time high school, Monsignor Pace, big time schedule. He's going against the best of the best, in the Miami area. And then if you separate the football and just go with, the underwear Olympic workout, shorts and t-shirts, I've seen Jadeveon Clowney in person. I saw him down in Under Armour 5 days in a row, and he was just, everybody's a freak these days. That guy was a freak. And I'll tell you, Shamar Stewart, that might have been the second best shorts and t-shirts workout I've ever seen behind Jadeveon Clowney, and not that far behind Jadeveon Clowney. I was I know his head coach, Mario Perez, and it was good to see Mario up there in Ohio. He's a friend of Mark Pantoni's, and he's starting to get to know Ryan Day here. And I asked
he got us Torrance Gibson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was Torrance's quarterback coach, in high school from Heritage. And I actually asked Mario, I said, what does Shamar weigh? I said, is he 245, 250? Because he looked great. And he said, no, he's 270. 270. And I'm like, what?
I was like, what?
Moving like that.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. I mean, that was just, I've done this for 20 years now. And again, second best workout I've ever seen behind Jadeveon Clowney. So, just an amazing, amazing guy. And then we got to touch on Sonny Styles. And it meant a lot for me because, Mark Gibler has seen him before in person. I think Mick Walker has seen him in person. I have never seen Sonny Styles in person yet. Didn't get out to see him last year as a sophomore. It was a COVID year, and we let Mark handle that. I saw Sonny as a freshman. He was on the sideline with crutches on. He looked good with crutches, too. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. In jeans and crutches walking around. That's as good as I've ever seen.
He looked fluid with the crutches.
Amazing. But then to see him, and the nice thing was I got to see him twice in about a 6-day period. Once as a linebacker working out with Al Washington, and then once as a DB working out with Kerry Combs. We've got film up on our YouTube channel, Buckeye Scoop YouTube channel. You can go watch it. And, I've got this picture in my head of all this hype and all this hoopla about Sonny Styles. And so I was kind of thinking, all right, kid, show me. I've seen Shamar Stewart. I've seen Jadeveon Clowney. I've seen the best. Show me, kid. And he showed me. I mean, the hype is real with Sonny Styles. I mean, that was, to see a kid work out at two positions like that and blow his competition away in both spots. I mean, it was pretty good. I thought Mick Walker said it best when we were picking our all camp team. Mick listed him as a linebacker and as a DB both. And I thought that was great by Mick Walker because I agree with that 100%. I would have put him on twice too. I mean, I wish I would have thought of that. That was brilliant by Mick. But, I mean, Sonny lived up to all the hype. I mean, and I was looking for flaws, to be honest with you, because I've heard so much. And it's like, come on. No, he met it all. And the other guy I liked was a linebacker, Tassili Akana, 2023 kid. Man, that dude was really, really impressive. Just a long, athletic, super quick kid that's just starting to grow into his body. And like Nevada said, you see these kids and you think they're like college ready now, but they have 2 years of high school to go. And it's amazing what these kids can do at this early age, So the Akana kid was really, really special. And I want to see where things go recruiting wise, with him in Ohio State.
Yeah, so that wraps that part. Just to empty the notebook, the one guy that we all got to see was AJ Harris, the corner out of Bama. And it's well known that he's kind of a military guy. He hasn't been to Bama his whole life. Sounds like we have a great shot at him.
Yeah,
potentially could be an equal signs guy coming down the road. Nevada, what were your thoughts on AJ Harris? I loved him. He actually came inside of the private workout, and I was watching Chase Basantis, and Kerry Combs had him hitting the different sled, and he was popping it. And I was like, geez, he's a put together dude. What were your thoughts on AJ Harris, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I think again, he doesn't look like a kid that's got 2 more years left in high school. I mean, he is a well put together young man, and he's competitive as hell. I mean, even in a setting where you've got a lot of competitive kids, he's ultra competitive. He was the guy that was barking at the other team, and even when his team was getting down in a couple of games, he was the one that was keeping them together, and clearly an alpha amongst alphas. And so I from what I'm hearing from Ohio State and from what I'm hearing from my contacts, I think we're going to get him, and I think he's going to look really good there in the secondary, and I frankly think he'll be a guy that'll be a team leader for that 2023 recruiting class. So he would fill a lot of different roles and would be an excellent acquisition for the Buckeyes.
That's huge. Yeah. One guy that I'm going to throw out back, I got to talk about my boy Lucas Simmons, my big left tackle from big Swedish kid, which is, it's so weird saying that because he's like 6'8". His dad played at Oklahoma. I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I played with guys at Ohio State that weren't as good as this kid, and he is raw as raw could ever be. And he plays like 9-man football or 7-man football, but he's like 6'8", like 290, and he's like 16. And I was like, that's not really fair. But what did you think of him? It was funny because when he showed up, his best offer was Florida State. By the time he's done with camp, he had Texas A&M, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas. Like, what did you think of him in person. Like, again, raw as can be, but thoughts on his potential upside, I guess.
Oh, the upside is off the chart. You're not going to coach. You know, he's 6'7" or 6'8". I don't know which, but I mean, he's so tall and so long. You can take that 6'4" kid. You cannot make him 6'8". I don't care what you do. And I thought he was another one that I thought when I first saw him at the first start of camp, I thought he was so rough that I almost thought it was almost too far gone to even be a project. And then it, like Luke Montgomery, as he got coached and he listened and he took to the field what Stud and Kevin Wilson were telling him to do, it was like, okay, I'm getting it now. And by the time the day was over, we were ready to like possibly an Ohio State kid, or before I was thinking, this is an Akron or a Kent kid. When I walk, at first they go through drills and then they progress toward the one-on-ones. And the first couple of drills, I was thinking he's too far gone. You would have to put too much in him to take him from project to prospect. But then by the time the one-on-ones were over, I was like, shoot, that guy should have 25 Power 5 offers. And I'm not so sure he can't play at Ohio State. And I feel that way now. I'm not so sure he can.
Well, it was funny because I was like, I think this kid's pretty good. I think he's raw, which is, you coach him up, you get him with Mickey Marotti. And the thing that me and you were wondering is, how is he going to survive one-on-one pass rush? Like, is he going to get murdered?
Right.
He's never seen anything like these kids he's gone against in Sweden. So, yeah, I know. So it's like, there aren't many Shamar Stewarts walking around Sweden. But it was just funny because then 2 days later he gets Oklahoma.
Right.
I got offered, then he gets Texas. Then he gets Texas A&M. So it's like, I was like, thank God I'm not crazy, because all these other guys saw what I saw. And I was like, I don't know if he's going to be an Ohio State kid, but he's going to be a big time school kid. I mean, you got A&M and Oklahoma. That's big time right there. So we're going to transition a little bit because I want to do a little bit of a fact or fiction. So we officially have JTT in the boat. He's on campus now. He's moved in. Can't get away from us. So, of course, now that he's here, the comparisons start. So Nevadabuck, the only metric that I can really figure out as to who will have a better career or better impact is NFL draft. So between Jack Sawyer and JTT, who will get drafted higher and when? Is it 3 years, 4 years? There's no way they're going to be here 5 years, but is it just, if JTT stays 4 years and goes number 1 overall, or Jack leaves in 3 and goes 15 overall, how's that going to play out in your mind? So we can watch this in 3 years and say, I was right or wrong.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I think Jack Sawyer is a more polished, more college-ready project right now, just because of his stage of development and the fact that he's been on campus, and that JTT is getting such a remarkably late start into this whole thing. I think Jack's going to be a top 5 pick in 3 years. I would think JTT is probably going to be a top 15 pick in 4 years. And that would be my guess if I had to do it. And yeah, I'm going to say something crazy and, maybe, but I'm not convinced that JTT won't end up at tight end. And I know that sounds like that's like the craziest idea in the world, but I think he is one of those rare kids that could play on either side of the ball. And I'm not convinced from watching him and that's not a better position for him. And I know that's like I said, that's a crazy thought, and maybe I'll be banished from the podcast forever and ever for having sent to the Isle of Misfit Toys. But I'll say 4 years for JTT and as a tight end.
How about you, Bank? How are you thinking this plays out?
Well, JTT would transfer out of Ohio State within 4 minutes that they moved into a dead position like tight end. And now, wait a minute. Now, I'm not saying that he can't play there, because I agree. The basketball highlights are off the charts. This is a D1 basketball player. So could he play tight end? Absolutely, he would play tight end. And at that size and that athleticism, but would he do it at Ohio State so he could catch 12 balls? He would never do that. He knows his future is as a multi-millionaire defensive end, so he would never do it. But he could do it. I guarantee he could do it. But that's not going to happen. But I think Jack. I mean, I have Jack in such high regard because I've seen him in person so many times. I've never seen JTT in person. The film is great. You know, the basketball highlights are just as impressive, you know, but Jack Sawyer to me, I mean, when you look at the fact that he opted out of his senior year, he was forced to play quarterback as a junior, and they just used him a defensive end, mostly in pass rushing, third down situations. This guy's going to come so far. And we saw him in a spring game. He was unbelievable. And he's nowhere near what he's going to be. You know, the 6 months with Mickey Marotti, and then you put him in 6 months with Larry Johnson. I don't see how they keep him off the field this year. And I know Tyreek Smith is really good, and I've got a very high opinion of Zach Harrison. I still don't see how they keep Jack Sawyer off the field. I think Jack could be an overall number one. I think he's got Chase Young ability. So I'm going to take Jack over JTT, but man, you know, you get both those guys together, and you know, it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jack. I think pretty easily. I think he's been in the program since January, so he's already been in the running. He's been working out with Mickey. He's been with Larry Johnson. I think he starts probably more games than he doesn't start this year. I mean, he probably won't start the first game. He might start the first game. Probably should start the first game. But I mean, he is. I mean, because I didn't see the impact edge guys that he could potentially be last year in the pass rush, and it killed us because our back end really was something else, and we had major pressure players at defensive end, and we didn't really have that last year, and our guys kind of got exposed. And in modern college football, if you don't pressure the quarterback, it is like they're just going to absolutely tee off on you. So I think he will be, one of those guys that'll be a top 3 or 4 guy. He'll be like the Bosa's. He'll be like Chase. Yeah. I think JTT, I think his best position is going to end up maybe being 3 technique. I mean, because he is 280, and it's like he starts lifting some weights. I don't know how much he's lifted before. I mean, he doesn't look physically like a guy where I'm like, oh my God, that guy spends hour upon hour in the weight room. It's not a slight on him, but when you're playing basketball and you're doing all kinds of other sports, it's hard to go get in the gym when you're like, oh, I got to go do AU for 4 days this weekend, and then I got to travel and do this thing and whatever. It's like I think he could grow into be a 310-pound technique. Like that might be his real spot because D end, like, I mean, if you're not just wicked quick off the edge, if you're a bigger guy, like you end up being like a 3-4 end, which is why you didn't want to go to Bama, because you didn't want to sit there and 2 gap. Like that's like death to a defensive end and say, hey, all right, hold the guy up and kind of look, peek, and then chuck him and make the play. Like that, those guys don't want to do that. They want to be out on the edge and the outside shoulder, and they want to pass rush. Like they want to go get sacks and make highlight plays. So, but I think Sawyer is the guy who he's going to start. I mean, he should probably start week 1, but they can't, I don't know if they can do that right off the bat, but I think he's a special cat. So anything else, man? It's July, it's vacation time. We're getting ready to amp up for everything. Any preseason predictions you want to bestow upon us, Nevadabuck, for preseason camp and maybe the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'd just tell everybody that don't sleep on Mayan Williams. Mayan's he's a guy that I've been on for a while, and I know people want to go right up to the Trayvon Hendersons, who's unbelievable, or the Evan Pryors, or some of the other guys that we have in the running back room. But don't sleep on Mayan Williams. He is in tremendous shape, and he is going to make some noise this year at running back, and came in, I guess as lightly regarded as you can be as an Ohio State recruit, but I'm telling you, he's going to be a real good one. So keep an eye on Mayan Williams.
What about you, Bank?
Well, I just want to see how they scheme with these DBs. I hope they go to a 4-2-5. I think that's where college football is today. And I think the 2 linebackers on the field, it's all they're going to need. Get that extra DB in there. I mean, I think that's the only way they get beat this year is you pick those defensive backs apart. And, no one's going to run the ball on them. And when's the last time? It's been a long time since we've seen Ohio State get the ball run down their throat. So I hope they go to the 4-2-5. I want to see 5 DBs on the field. I want to see what, Kerry Combs, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he needs this year to kind of prove who he really is. And I don't think we know after last year. I mean, there were some things that were not good last year, and that Alabama game was as bad as it can be. That 4-4-3 deal was ridiculous. I don't think we'll ever see that again, but I hope they go to the 4-2-5. I would love to see it as their base defense. They're going to get enough pass rush out of the front 4, but I'd like to see that extra cover guy out there. And that's kind of what I'm looking to see, is how they scheme up this defense and how well these DBs play, in comparison to what they had last year. That's really what I'm looking for.
The thing I'm looking for, I had a chance meeting where I actually ran into Harry Miller at a restaurant, and he was actually with Addison Nichols. He was hosting him. They picked Addison up at the airport. He's with his family. I was eating lunch randomly, and I saw Harry walk in, and I'll tell you what, man, he is putting some work in the weight room. I mean, he is strapped up dude. I mean, he's probably gained 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. Like, he really looks the part. And I'm telling you, as much as we talk about us having the best tackles in the country, like, dude, like Paris Johnson in his second year and Harry as our 2 guards. Like, I mean, Harry's a 5-star kid out of Georgia. We beat Bama on him. We beat Clemson on him. Same with PJ. I mean, I think our guards are going to be really good. I mean, Bank, you've seen me at Ohio State camp. You see how I work the camp and how I run into every coach, every strength coach, I talk to all those guys. And the thing that stuck out to me, that one of the things that stuck out to me when I was working the scene is that, that's what I'll say, this is the most athletic line Ohio State's maybe ever had. Easily the best one since Urban, since 12. But I was thinking, I was like, well, if you back up to 2002 and the 90s, like, I mean, we didn't exactly have guys that look like PJ and Harry and Nick Petit Frere, like guys that could run and like actually be really athletic, that were great players like we do now. So, I mean, I don't know how far back we have to go. I mean, I need to go back to Jim Parker and John Hicks, but like, you saw PJ. I mean, Paris looks unbelievable in person. Right. And I don't know who's going to play center. It's going to be Matt Jones with Luke Winford, but those 2 guards, I think that, they're on a mission, they're focused, they're all ball right now. I think Paris is going to play right guard next to Nick Petit Frere. Harry's going to play left guard next to Thayer. And I really think that, Harry, he had a labrum last year. So I told him, like, dude, he got that fixed. He's like, I feel much stronger. And I was like, dude, because the holding thing is the thing. Everyone just calls him like holding Harry and all this, but like, dude, just get your hands. Like, just get your hands in. Get your hands in. Don't be out wide. Because I took an officiating football class at Ohio State as like just a dumb elective, because I had to take a dumb elective. This is the best class I ever took in my career, because I learned exactly what officials look at when they call penalties, especially on the offensive line, what the umpire looks at, what you can do and what you can't do. Like, it's because it kind of gives you like a recipe to how to like cheat the game. You can hold, but if it's in here and under their pads, it's good. But as soon as I see cloth stretch, or as soon as I see an arm under, then I'm throwing the flag. And I'm like, well, that's great. Because then as soon as like a guy got, because I used to like let guys go. If a guy got out wide and I started to have my arm out and I stretched the cloth, I just let go. Because it's better to have Beanie Wells get tackled for a gain of 3 or 4 than have a -10 for a penalty. Or I can hold him and he can get a 6-yard touchdown that gets called back. So I learned that game, and that was something that really helped me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I don't know if they taught you in that class, but a saying that the officials all have is, if you get beat, you're going to cheat. You rarely get called for holding on a play where you're demolishing a guy. Even if you are holding him, they're not going to call it. But when that guy's going around you and that arm extends, they're going to call it every time. That's something ingrained to the official, that when you get beat, you're going to cheat. So that's going to get called every time.
I'll tell you another thing that gets called a lot is if you take a guy down. Like, if you got a guy in like a pass set and then you like torque him to the ground, they always call that. They always call that as a hold. Or
and
even in the running game.
There's no need to do that.
Yeah, it's like if you just hold him there, the ball's gone and it's first down. But yeah, it's like if you do that last little stupid finish. I see that called more than any other holding call. So But this has been, guys, this has been awesome. I really appreciate it. Nevada, you got anything for us? I mean, are you over there holding anything or throwing anybody on the ground or anything? Any of your house guests?
Yeah, no, I tried because, with my house guests, it's like, if you're going to cheat, then you got to meet. And so you got to have a seat. And that's what we always say at our house, so.
And you got to cook the meat.
Then you got to cook the meat. Exactly.
Oh God. You guys are the best.
You got to rub Nevada's feet.
Oh, you got to rub Nevada's
yeah, I
feet.
would like to have somebody rub my feet right now. That'd be great. Thank you, Ben.
You got to get that skin ointment, that loofah going on them. So, you guys are the best, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys. It's a great Scoop Sunday. I'm going to put this thing up right now. So appreciate everybody tuning in. This has been the Scoop World Order. We will see you again soon.
All right, gents.